So, this is all about preparedness. I would like to be clear with everyone listening right now that I know my work. I talk about a lot of things that could potentially affect you directly. But one way or another, we know that whatever happens to this country will affect you or someone you know. So it might make sense to diversify your money with precious metals. And that is why I partnered with Goldco, because I believe that this could be the best way to help. And this is about taking control of your freedom, financial freedom. We know we can't predict the future, but we can certainly prepare for it.
Hi, everyone. I I guess you can hear me. I was supposed to be doing a show with ML right now, and for some reason, it's not working. So I don't really know what to do exactly. But I thought I would come on here and maybe just continue the show so that at least we had something out there. So if you're following my work and you want to see what I'm doing, and you can go direct to Rumble after the shows are broadcast here on Facebook. Also, I leave them up for a while after the live show, and I am also on linking to Telegram and other social media. The reason I want to do a broadcast today is because with this whole situation we're facing, we're actually looking at a situation that I've written about in an article that I just published a day ago. It's called Trump Landslide. It's a response to a Before It's News article, and that was actually linked down here by Greg Hunter and Martin Armstrong, saying that Trump, they're predicting a victory, a landslide for him in a video on Before It's News. And I wanted to address that from the point of view of the patriots and the MAGA people, because what's happening is that's going to affect how the White Hats come forward, how Trump comes forward, etc. So basically, we have two presidents, and 107 has predicted that we would have two presidents. And he said Kim Clement predicted that we have two presidents. Kim Clement is, I guess, a well-known psychic going back several years, and he predicted at some point Americans would have two presidents. So basically, we have Trump, who is currently president and CIC of the U.S. Republic. Biden, who is a New World Order puppet regime. The real Biden is dead. You can see he's wearing a mask. And he is under the CCP, Vatican, MI6, Draco Reptilian, Gray, Luciferian alliance. So for those of you that are in the know, this will be known to you. But for those that have no clue, I guess this might be the first time you hear this sort of thing. So I think it's really important that we zero in on this idea of two presidents, and that, according to Juan, is supposed to take root in mainstream during this summer, going into the fall, and be spoken about. And so I think that that's really interesting, and some kind of reveal that people like me have been waiting for forever. And so that it's good news to hear that maybe these people will be talking about this stuff. So when these guys on Before It's News, as I say, I'm gonna just Greg Hunter and Martin Armstrong did their video, and there's an article, it's in writing as well, basically predicting a Trump landslide. There's some problems with that idea, and that has to do with what Juan and others have been saying, which is there's not going to be an election. So it seems like there are some red flags with this knowledge or this prediction that we could actually have an election in which there's a landslide. Now, I think it's very possible, actually. And I think the reason it's possible is because the Illuminati at this point are are starting to change their game. When the Texas governor came forward and suddenly threw down the gauntlet, started the whole border thing, focusing on Texas and the wire fencing and all of that, he is a known tool basically of the New World Order. So then you have to question, why would he come forward on behalf of the people of the United States, and especially the Trump MAGA group that have been warning against this problem with letting in all these illegal aliens who are packed with military-aged men who clearly could come in, create, or add to what is already a civil war in our country and cause mayhem and, so and so forth. So yes, there are lots of women and children that are also among that group. But now even Tucker Carlson is saying it's in the millions. It's something like, some people say 10 million, and I think Tucker just said 22 million. And 22 million happens to be around the necessary votes that the Democrats need take over the election, and they're going to be given voter rights, apparently, if the Democrats get their way, which of course is absurd, because it will certainly turn the scales in towards Biden at a time when Trump is clearly winning. So this is, when I talk about these kind of things, I actually think it's the most absurd kind of, it is like a movie or a play in which you don't really believe what's happening before your eyes. It's so strange and insane. But that's the reality we're faced with at the moment. So just saying that, I'm saying that the White Hats, at some point, if Trump comes forward and is going to win, then it actually looks like at that point we wouldn't have an EBS. We would not have any reveal of the White Hats and how they've been operating up to now, which is for the past, really since 2020 was stolen, and what they've been doing behind the scenes, which is tribunals and arresting people, taking them to Guantanamo and to Diego Garcia and other places, and conducting tribunal trials, military trials, and convicting them and even executing them, according at least to the real police chief, who's a former police chief of Colorado. And I interviewed him as well. And so you can join his site for $5 a month. You will get his list of all the people that he says have been basically tried and executed. And the list is extremely long. It involves everyone you can think of: Pelosi, Obama, Biden, you name it. So I know it's hard to even take on board, but this is the kind of thing that EBS was supposed to do. And clearly we haven't gotten there yet. So that's one thing to consider. And the other thing is that since we're waiting for some kind of, I think it's an international incident, and we're very close now. We're actually right on the verge of something with Iran, because they're calling for blood over this Jordan situation where some people were killed and something like 34 were injured. And that they're trying to pin on Iran, whether it's actually Hezbollah or Iran or Israel, who knows, or even Hamas, whoever they're trying to say it is. There's orchestration, you can bet. And by the way, I did do a couple days ago an update that had to do with the intensity and the proliferation of what is in essence satellite surveillance. And there's a great series on television you can watch. It's on actually it's on Netflix, I guess it is. And this is the advanced knowledge broadcast that I did. And if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to do so, because I really had my ducks in a row and really went through all of the things that haven't been talked about out there that I think they should. And satellite surveillance, the AI, the single AI running this world, testified by certain whistleblowers, including this Army intelligence guy. It's all in this video. And Mount, it's not Monk, it's Mount. Anyway, and he talked about a single AI running the planet, as I've got several witnesses, including Major Solomon Berg saying the same thing. Jake Simpson from many years ago was saying the same thing. And I think that there are others as well that have reported this to me. So for what it's worth, I encourage you to see this update. It's just called, Evolution, Revolution, COG, SES, and what's next. And it's important to realize that a lot of what Juan has been saying lately has to do with what's called senior executive service. And that group is the highest paid members of the intelligence and governmental structure, those individuals who are really kind of, I guess, running the place. And they are taking a payroll from something called SES. And in addition to the payroll that they get working for the agencies, the various agencies of the government that they work for, including the intel agencies and so on. So that is one of the major obstacles to the plans of the White Hats, at least according to 107. Now, coming back to this article, what I want to draw your attention to is, actually, I guess I'll see if we have anybody on here. I'm probably just doing this for myself, and then I can broadcast it later. So I guess it doesn't matter how many people are watching, but let me just see if I can broadcast it later. So I guess it doesn't matter how many people are watching, but let me mute this. Okay, actually, it does look like I have some people watching. Okay, just for people that joined us just recently, you might not know how I ended up here, but there's some problem that we had actually with the broadcast we were going to do, which is ML and I on a discussion, and he just disappeared. I think they crashed his whole system. It kind of looks like. So that's what's happening. And so I decided to just come on here and do an update quickly because I felt bad that we were just being thrown off the air altogether. So coming back to my article, what I'm trying to address right now is this tale of two presidents, the fact that if Trump were to actually, we were to have an election, Trump were to win by a landslide, then certainly other things might or might not follow. And it's kind of an interesting way of looking at the future to see that winning an election might not be the best way for Trump to come forward now. So he has been, ever since Biden was sworn in, and Biden is an illegal president. He is a fake president. He is played by a clone, or probably most of the time he's wearing masks. So he's those are doubles, and so on. So while that's been happening, the White Hats have been very active behind the scenes. As I say, Trump coming back as CIC, Commander in Chief, as well as President of the Republic, could happen at any time if you really think about it, even according to the Law of War manual, the Department of Defense Law of War manual. So I've talked about that quite a bit in the past, and so has 107, by the way. And so in a certain sense, I think the plan for the White Hats is not to have Trump actually get to the election, but that to have him come forward before that. And some people, someone just wrote to me saying he heard July. I was thinking June, and it may be sooner than that, because we're looking at an international incident in which Trump would come forward because he is, as I say, commander-in-chief with the codes. And so we need a nuclear incident to prove that, where Trump will step forward as commander-in-chief and call the shots, in essence, get us out of a nuclear conflict, conflagration, or whatever you want to call it, and become sort of the hero of the day. But at the same time, White Hats come forward, military martial law and Trump. So that's what I think is the plan. However, as I say, if Trump goes to the election, all the way to the election, and it happens, then it's kind of another crapshoot, really. One is the illegal aliens that are here, that the border situation, even in the next few days, could go ballistic. Those illegal aliens, that, as I say, 11 million. If you have to also figure out how many of those 11 or 22 million people are military aged men. Even if it was a million, let's just make it a really small number of the portion of that. Then you're really talking about a huge force that could then infiltrate all the states, overturn states' governments by force, or just get voting rights and then overturn the election and turn it in the direction of Biden, because they're going to vote Democrat, is the thinking, if they're so thankful. I'm looking, oh, ML is, okay, so he's writing to me. He says, my apologies, the internet was completely disconnected. He couldn't reconnect. The 9 minutes recorded of the show disappeared from YouTube. Someone did not want me to do that show. So that's ML. He's goes by Redneck Renegade. I've done several shows with him. Very interesting guy, former police officer, as it happens. So it's fun to talk to him. And unfortunately, they didn't want the two of us to talk today, obviously. And that is just typical, par for the course. As I say, all day, my internet, my website has been down. I'm on the internet. I'm able to do this show, as you see, but not able to connect with him. And I was threatened yesterday. Whether there is a connection to anything going on or not, I don't know. I just know that I was threatened in a news group that I was part of that had 107 in it, supposedly, but they had let in some other members who were completely unknown to most of us in the group. A certain person in the group did know this particular member, sort of is making excuses for why he threatened me, which is, I'm not going to go into, it's completely stupid. But there's no doubt the guy was threatening me. And I don't know why he hates me so much and what he thinks he can, tell people about me, because he's trying to say that he has information or something about me, which is insane, because I'm like kind of known to everyone and been doing this for 20 years. So I don't have any secret anything going on, really, other than my whistleblower testimony and, whistleblowers that I do protect. Which reminds me, I do have maybe a piece of information, intel I can drop on this live thing here in a few minutes, but I don't want to get distracted from this trail that I'm trying to, I hope it's not too confusing, because I'm doing this right off the top of my head. I thought we were going to do a kind of a Q&A, me and ML. So going back to this article, what's happening is, again, if the illegal aliens are allowed to continue to be here and they are given voting rights, as what is the clear intention of the Biden show and the CCP and the basically the Illuminati cabal, all the different names they go back by, if that were to happen, it's possible that the scales in which Trump would actually win by a landslide might be tottered into something else. But I'm not so sure that's going to fly. Now, I have dreams of the future. Maybe some people hate that. Maybe they don't want to hear about it, but they're coming true now, and more. What I saw, this is before the 2020 election, I saw a mass exodus going south out of this country. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. Now it's very clear, because Trump is saying the first thing he's going to do when he gets back in office is send those people back to their homes, or at least south across the border, back across the border. Now you can appreciate that all of those people are not going to go back home. They're probably going to stay in Mexico. Maybe they'll just be dispersed throughout South America or something if they were kept from coming in the United States. But that's a huge job. And even if it was able to go fairly smoothly, it's also probably, it's taken years for them all to get here. So it's going to take years to send them out, I imagine. Um, and someone said that they're going to use traffic, like traffic stops, to pull people over, check their IDs and all that. But you can imagine that's going to be a nightmare, I believe, because it's not going to just be the illegal aliens that get stopped by traffic cops. It's going to be all of us, and that is going to be really annoying, to say the least. And all kinds of weird stuff could come down as a result of that. But according to my dream, that Trump is going to win regardless of how he wins. Like, he's going to come forward. He's going to be what he is, which is CIC, the commander in chief, president of the republic, and that apparently, according to my dreams of the future, is going to happen. So this ploy to try to give voting rights to illegal aliens, I don't think it's going to fly. Just saying, based on the other dreams that I've had. I had dream visions of the Chinese crossing our border, troops being let in. That's happening and has happened now. They're documenting it. They've got the numbers as well. And that was in my dream. And I was told, and this is like 6 or 8 years ago, they let them in. And I have other parts of that dream which haven't quite happened yet, but I bet they're going to. So just saying. And then there's other things that are also happening according to my dream visions of the future that do match what's happening now. Okay, now, when we're looking at the situation with, see, what is happening here is actually an interesting game, because more interesting than it's been, because we've been kind of bored. I've been kind of bored by seeing a lot of the same, and hearing Juan talk about the same things over and over again. Every time he tries to put in some little pieces of new information, but you have to comb through a huge, hour or two of religious ranting and stories and all of that. So, so what I want to say here is that we're reaching what I call in my article a fulcrum or a pinnacle. So it's like, picture it like this, like a triangle, and both sides are meeting at the top. And the top would be what they're both aiming for, but they're getting closer and closer to each other as the fulcrum takes form. So consequently, they're acting the same way as each other. And they're basically almost indistinguishable from each other at this time. So that's why you look at Abbott and you wonder, how can this New World Order tool suddenly be siding with the people, when in reality, this is a ploy, I believe, to bring down to the border and to focus people on a kind of a January 6th type of thing. But I don't think it's going to play out like that. I think it's going to be a way for the powers that be, or want to be, or have been, to gauge how serious civil war is at our doorstep. In other words, how serious are the people? And the way to do that is to, it's like, if you want to know how many people are serious about the border, you stage a border party, right? You stage an incident, a situation. So February 3rd, I understand the truckers will arrive down at the border in mass. And at the same time, there are other people going down to meet them and join them. And we've got President Trump coming on the record and encouraging, is how it's written. He's encouraging the state's governors to send their National Guard down to the border to support Abbott, the governor of Texas. So you can see how this is all coalescing. And interestingly enough, this does work actually in favor of both sides, because on the one hand, you get the people getting what they want, which is to stop the illegals from coming in, or do something to make a huge statement that gets through to the Biden regime that they're not going to allow this to happen anymore. Trump, of course, is saying, is encouraging them to, like I say, the National Guard down there. Now, I think behind the scenes, because he is commander in chief, he is commanding the National Guard, even though they're in the States, he's commanding them to go down and support Abbott and to block the border. And I think that's a Trump move. So you've got the white hats making a move, you've got the dark hats making a move, and you've got everything coalescing in this huge boiling point. And then at the same time, you've got, sorry about that, you've got the Iran, Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas standoff happening. I believe Turkey had just escalated and put more troops into the area, and Turkey is actually a big pawn, a big playing card in that struggle, because Turkey has tons of military that a lot of people don't pay much attention to, but they are pretty active in the Middle East, and they could get involved in this whole drama. And it looks like they probably are not going to side with Israel. So that means they're going to side with Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. And all of this was predicted, by the way, by one of my witnesses called Cameron Faley, who was an expert in the financial sector, who his whole family was Kurdish and was working for the City of London in the financial sector forever. And he was. And then he became a whistleblower when he started focusing on Planet X and what he believed was going to happen, but it didn't happen when he thought it would. Whether it's still an incoming planet and going to disturb things even as early as April of this year, 2024, in some major way. I know that Marshall Masters probably thinks it is. I've done interviews about the subject, and then my witness, which is Richard Allen Miller, a physicist who works for Navy intelligence, came forward about a year ago to state that he had done this 3 sigma mathematical calculation that all of this was going to happen in late March, early April, and now it looks like around April 8th might even be the date. If this sort of event is going to happen, that may involve what some people might have called a kill shot from the sun, but is more like a solar flare. I believe that this might be a predicted event that will then be steered by the dark forces of the secret space program to create an EMP and maybe some earth changes, some land masses rising, and volcanoes going off in North Pacific rim of America, and various other things. And all of this is, I think, planned. This is why I tried to talk a lot about not only the fact that we have Minority Report going on, so that both sides are using AI, both sides are predicting the future, both sides are using precogs, of which I'm one, and so on, and remote viewers, and so when you have a package like that both sides are doing, then they're both seeing things with advanced knowledge, and then they decide how they want to work with that. So things are not playing out naturally, anything but. And that needs to be kind of focused on by people and understood, that these organizations that we are sort of voting with our feet or which one we want to follow. I mean, if you're stupid enough to want to follow the New World Order and you want a totalitarian planet, then, and I talk about this in my article, then, welcome to it, because that's what they really want. They want a Nazi totalitarian rule over humanity. And by the way, it includes the entire planet. Whereas the white hats under Trump, whether you like it or not, it's not a personality contest. It is all about our rights and our freedoms, okay? To govern, to self-govern, to be sovereign, etc. Then you better be putting your vote behind Trump and the White Hats, okay? And they are looking at so both sides are looking at a long-term sort of outcome that they both want, and they're opposites, okay? One side, a totalitarian, control over humanity in conjunction with AI and some ETs, which are already trying to run and are running the planet. And then the White Hats with Trump and their desire for for states' rights and country rights and sovereignty and a certain amount of individuality, but also a new world order that is a positive world order. And the ultimate end game here is that the unity of the world is going to have to come together under a coalition of good leaders to then negotiate with the various ET races that are overrunning us even as we speak, have been infiltrating us for millennia. And for that, you can read the Oceana Dean books, Voyager books on the front page of my website. Just scroll down somewhere near the bottom. And that explains the whole history of the War of Worlds that we're a part of. We're not just joining the Galactic Federation and the Galactic, Alliance, which is not the Federation. The Federation is infiltrated by a lot of negative ETs. But we are already very far along involved in this War of Worlds. And both sides know it. Both sides don't want to talk about it, other than to give us like little tiny bits of a drip feed, if you will, to let us think that there's something going on with the ETs and our world. Now, so I'm going back to, and I'm not going to, stay on here forever, but I hope that I'm drawing your attention to this article that I wrote again. And let me see if I can put it on the screen. What we're talking about is the overall unity of the planet, that both sides have. So they act in a certain way and make decisions now that are going to lead down this road eventually. And it could take, another 20 years to accomplish their goal. But the bottom line is that we are going to have a final decision on this planet as to how we're going to greet and deal with all these various ET races who are already negotiating with us. In fact, they're negotiating with the UN, which is clearly run by the CCP, Dark Alliance. And we are not participating in these decisions being made about our planet. That includes the financial system, by the way. So unless you understand what the end goals are, which is to unify the planet in either a positive way or a negative way, and the obvious answer is in a positive way, then you don't understand decisions that either side are making right now to serve their end goal. So that's kind of the point I want to make. So when you look at Abbott, when you look at the dark side making their move, I think they're trying to judge how thirsty, how much desire out there is in America, how much unrest to create a civil war. Because if we do get the civil war, which I think we will, sad to say in some ways, we're going to be involved with fighting the military-aged men that came in, at least 1 million of them, and quite possibly more than that. If you look at the 10 or 11 million they're quoting, and they're saying even 22 million refugees have already come in. A portion of them are military-aged men, and they have been documented, and they are being documented. And by the way, they're probably being tracked and traced, okay, so that when Trump comes back, they can easily figure out who's who. And I'm sure that they're tagging them. And the way they would do this, by the way, is a lot by the vaccines, COVID, nanographene oxide, luciferase. So those of the illegal aliens who have been vaxxed will be easily traceable even by satellite, and certainly by electromagnetics. And those that aren't, perhaps they've figured out another way to track us. I'm I know that for years, the nanographene oxide has been put into our food, our water, our clothing, etc., and through chemtrails. And so the same thing with the illegal aliens from whatever countries they come from. And by the way, a good part of them are human hybrids that are gray human hybrids. Part of the gray human hybrid abduction, basically, genetic experiment that the Greys got involved in that really focused on Central and South America and Mexico. And so a lot of them are actually, they don't even know why they left their homes consciously. They are just following a directive that is probably an electromagnetic programming that's somewhat related to MK Ultra, but much more advanced, bringing them across the border towards the United States without any thought whatsoever of what they're really going to encounter. So in a certain sense, that's sort of a sad scenario because you've got a lot of programmed people acting like zombies, more or less, or close to the level of a zombie, who can be ordered around and cause all kind of mayhem, of course, in the States once they get here. So it's going to be an X-Men scenario. And I've always said that. I've been talking about this X-Men scenario for years, literally. So if you haven't heard my various video blogs, and there are many of them that I've done over the last, say, 5 to 10 years, you can all find them on my Project Camelot portal.com website, or go to, for the most recent videos, you can go to Rumble, and then BitChute has some older videos free. And the Project Camelot channel on Odyssey has at least 1,000, maybe more, free videos that came over from when they banned me from YouTube overnight. And then I have a YouTube channel that's got a very small, like 20 videos or something. And I'm not getting very far with that channel because every time I put up a video, most of the time they knock it down. So I'll probably lose that channel very soon, but I'm going to keep, plugging away and trying to sneak things in. So what can I say? Oh, I have a piece of intel. So I guess I'll release it here, but I'm going to this is only a developing story for those that are listening here and are going to see this, hopefully, and then I'll put it on Rumble after I get a chance to later today. So what it is a certain person contacted me who is in touch with a military guy who was a white hat going back to the days of 9/11. And it is known that the White Hats organization, whatever you want to call them, piece of evidence is about 9/11. And that in 9/11, unbeknownst to most people, if not all people, except the military was as split then as it is now. And so what 9/11 was also about was a military battle between the two major factions of our military, according to this person. And he was told by this military man who was involved at the time. And so that the white hat side of the military was trying at any moment to take out, for example, George Bush, the younger one at the time, Daddy Bush. They, certainly should have taken off, but I guess they didn't at that time. He's now dead, according to the chief of police information. And everyone thinks he died anyway, but I think they did kill him. So it's a little different. Anyway, this person is saying that he didn't go into much detail about 9/11, but he did focus on the Pentagon. And that was a missile that hit the Pentagon, but that was a white hat missile, according to what his information says. What it was the dark side, run by the Bushes and the cabal and so on and so forth, had a much longer agenda. And I had heard that part before, that they had many targets they were planning to hit that day, and they only got like the three main, right? Building 7, the Twin Towers, and the Pentagon. But because the Pentagon was hit in the area where it was hit with the missile, That was a white hat missile that basically told the dark side to stand down with the rest of their agenda and their targets, and to stop, because there would be a conflagration that would probably destroy not just the United States, but perhaps even the world. So this is what they say really did stop 9/11 in its tracks, that it was only in process, that it hadn't completed its objective. So that's really kind of fascinating when you think about it. And I haven't had a chance to cross-examine the witness in this case. We're hoping he's still alive. So we don't know if the person who related this information is still alive or not. We're finding out. And then we're going to try to do an interview, either if he's still alive, if he's conscious, etc. Not too elderly, then we'll try to do that if he's willing to come forward. So no guarantees as far as getting more information, but this has just come through. I think it's a really interesting approach. I think it's very possibly true. And I'd have to run it by the White Hats to see if they even admit to this. But, there's tons of secrecy, as you know, still around 9/11 and around the Kennedy assassination. And my website was taken down recently because I did investigate that, talk to Jay Widener about his new theory, the squib theory. So if you haven't seen that interview, it's fascinating. And all about deep fakes and clones, et cetera, that we're dealing with, and that President Kennedy may not have been killed in Dealey Plaza, but that whole thing might have been a plot, a scene acted by both sides, it would appear. Although there's a lot of questions have to be asked and answered and so on. And even my interview was not able to cover all the details in one interview. However, I've recently done a sort of conversation with Jay Widener and orchestrated or hosted by Jean-Claude, where we were talking about more of this type of thing. And there are various disclosures that happened during that conversation that I highly recommend it. Towards the end, however, it got a little testy between Jay and I, because Jay kept trying to interrupt me when I was trying to explain about Captain Mark Richards. And I believe that there was a purpose behind that, because Jay is obviously not following my work, has no idea who Mark Richards really is, and obviously hasn't seen any of my 12 interviews with him, that are really front and center on my website. So it's very interesting. And he asked whether he'd gotten what do you call, a lie detector test, which is kind of a dumb question, I'm sorry to say, because anyone who's been in the secret space force, any soldier, any CIA agent, they're all trained on how to beat a lie detector. So that's like duh. And then the other thing about that is that he also, what else did he was asking something else about Mark Richards, which clearly showed that he knew nothing about that situation. He also brought up a trial in which a certain person, who I'm not going to name because I've already been threatened by them, and they tried to have my website removed because I used their name. But he went on trial, and Jay had interacted with that person over at Gaia TV when he was there. And I can say that he is convinced that he suddenly was telling the truth just because he was on a witness stand, which is insane. You can't imagine how many secret agents, and this person had actually disclosed to a person I know who had reported a lot of information about him to me, that he was CIA. He may have just been a CIA asset, but regardless of what his relationship was, he had to get off the hook. So of course he's going to lie on the stand. If you don't know that, you've got to be, I don't know, super naive is all I can say. So anybody in the CIA, I mean, they lie for a living, if you don't know that. And this is how it goes. I mean, courts are completely, as you know, completely taken over. They are compromised in every way. And so even from that standpoint, it probably wasn't even a real trial, for what it's worth. That's my take on it. I can tell you more, if people want to ask me at some point. Um, so I guess I'm going to let this go for now. If somebody wants to ask me a specific question or two, I could probably do that before I leave this show, this very impromptu show. And I hope I've been easy enough to understand. Strange goings on lately. I gotta say, people are really kind of flying off the handle and going crazy. And they don't like it when you challenge them. They're really like, especially men, they're like losing it totally. So I think that's important footnote. And I think women should arm themselves and defend themselves. And I wish that they would also be defended, because not all women can, who are mothers and all of this, can take the time to learn to shoot and whatever. And so we're entering a very strange juncture on our planet and in the United States as well. So I'm probably forgetting some things here. If there's, like I said, if there's anyone in the chat that wants to ask a very specific question, I don't tell Nino to shut the fuck up. On the contrary, Nino and I have very good conversations and discussions. So people have wrong information. I think that if you are not following my work, that's the trouble with a lot of these people, that when they criticize, unfortunately, they can be proven wrong in half a second, because they're basically lying, and they don't know, they don't have the evidence for what they're accusing me or anyone else of. And that's a big problem. But the documented evidence is on video. So that's worth knowing. And why do I only wear black or white? Video is very sort of finicky and crazy. So I just think that having bright colors on, or colors in general, distracts. I'm a investigative reporter, documentary filmmaker, and I really prefer to focus, not on colors, because the colors distract from the body of the subject matter. And so I think it's just probably my way of simplifying things. Let's see. But I do like black and white a lot. So I tend to like both black and white. It's not always easy to wear white. You're not supposed to wear white as much on film, they say, but I think it's fine. I mean, I like it. And I don't know. Okay, so basically I don't see any question marks. So thanks again for watching. If you're watching live, you did manage to catch this show. And for those that just joined, the show with ML will probably be rescheduled. Apparently they took down his internet. They tried to mess with the show altogether, and it didn't happen. So that's why I came on here a bit unprepared, but we kind of made our way through a lot of the data that's happening now. And I think it's important to pay attention. I don't think war with Iran is really going to be much of a starter. War with Iran is war with China, and war with China and Iran is madness for the United States. And we arguably do have a lot more weaponry, especially super modern weaponry, than we let on. But I don't think that's the plan. And I do think that Russia will be our partner, as it is our partner in the secret space program and has been for eons. And I can also say that the British are also our partner. And so are supposedly the Five Eyes. Certainly Australia is a loyal partner. Canada was going off the beaten path with Trudeau, but according to the real police chief, he has been eliminated as an obstacle. So they've got a clone in there, I guess. And there's more to that as well. So Mark Richards said at some point that we were going to take over Canada. He told me that like a few years ago. At the time, it sounded absurd. Now it sounds actually kind of logical. So we're moving towards a united planet. And you can even see that in the demonstrations that are worldwide, the sensibility and the sense of freedom for the people, freedom of speech, not buying into this nonsense about global warming and all this insanity that the deep state and the cabal are trying to sell you, is worldwide. Okay, so people waking up, realizing that their rulers have diabolical plans for them, which has been true forever. Really, if you know a Democrat, like, do your best to wake them up. Send them to my website. I've been doing this for 19 years now. So I've got, close to probably 2,000 videos at least. They can learn a lot and perhaps open their real eyes and see what's really happening. So thanks for watching, as always, and thanks for supporting my work. Those of you who do subscribe to my website for $3 a month, less than the price of a latte. And take care, and to the journey. It's all about the journey. Bye-bye.